The frozen expanse of Zegra 9 stretched before them like a barren, crystalline wasteland, a world where every gust of wind carried a biting chill and whispered ancient secrets of an alien past. The landing module's thrusters had barely subsided when Commander Darius Kane and his team emerged onto the icy surface. Their boots crunched through brittle frost as they advanced cautiously into the unknown. The expedition's primary objective was clear: to chart uninhabited territories and secure data that might hold clues to Earth's scattered legacy. Yet nothing could have prepared them for the shattering discovery that lay ahead. Dr. Orion Weiss, the team's xenobiologist, was the first to spot an anomaly, a glimmer far too deliberate to be the product of nature alone. "Commander, over here," he murmured, voice strained with both curiosity and foreboding. "Something's off beneath this ice." The group gathered around a ridge where the reflection of a strange metallic shimmer broke through the endless white. There, half buried under layers of glistening frost, was an ancient structure, its smooth contours betraying no sign of the natural world. "Steady now," Kane instructed in a low, measured tone, his eyes scanning the horizon for any further signs of danger. The team formed a cautious semicircle as they approached the structure. The architecture was unlike anything human, a vast monolithic edifice with intricate etchings that seemed to pulse faintly with residual energy. These carvings, rendered in an alien script, hinted at a civilization lost to time and cold. Yet their presence stirred an unsettling alarm deep within every member of the crew. Inside the structure, a cavern of silence awaited. The team's portable lights fractured the darkness into scattered beams that danced across walls encased in centuries-old ice. Every step was accompanied by the crunch of frost underfoot and the distant hum of malfunctioning machinery from their suits. Suddenly, a subtle creak echoed, a reminder that even ancient ice can betray hidden movements. The sound led them to a colossal sarcophagus, its form chiseled entirely from ice, yet marred by deliberate cuts and angles as if designed to imprison something formidable. "Do not touch anything," Dr. Weiss hissed, his voice trembling despite the effort to sound resolute. His warning came just as a fissure began to form along the sarcophagus's surface. A sliver of light, eerie and unearthly, seeped through the crack. The ice trembled as if stirred by an unseen force, and then, with a sudden and terrifying jolt, the sarcophagus split open. Inside, suspended in an eternal sleep, lay a creature whose form defied conventional biology, a being with features both alien and disturbingly familiar. Its eyes, dark and unfathomable, fluttered briefly as if tasting the warmth of life again. Commander Kane's voice cut through the oppressive silence, crisp and unyielding. "We came here to explore, not disturb. But if this is the legacy they left behind, we must learn from it and be prepared for whatever awakens." The words resonated through the icy corridor, a vow of determination from a species that had long been underestimated. Humanity, always resilient and fiercely independent, now stood at the crossroads of cosmic destiny and peril. The chill in the air deepened, and the wind outside began to howl like a chorus of ancient ghosts. The team's retreat from the site was executed with swift urgency, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they had unearthed. Each step back toward the landing module was marked by an unspoken dread. The sense that their inadvertent action had set something in motion, a chain reaction that might not be halted. As the crew boarded the waiting module, Commander Kane paused at the airlock, his gaze lingering on the alien structure silhouetted against a dim, foreboding sky. "We made a grave mistake," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else, the sound almost lost in the gusts of wind. Yet beneath the surface of his regret burned the indomitable human spirit, the promise of defiance in the face of insurmountable odds. The sealed airlock closed with a final, echoing clang, leaving behind only the chilling memory of a forgotten world and the foreboding promise of dangers yet to emerge. In the depths of the frozen relic lay the dormant force that could rewrite the destiny of humankind, and Chapter 1 of The Frozen Danger ended with that quiet, ominous note as the expedition set course for their ship carrying Earth's fragile coordinates. The biting wind howled across the barren ice as the crew retreated from the ancient structure, their minds reeling with the weight of what they had disturbed. Back aboard the landing module, tension mingled with the metallic hum of reactivated systems. The ship's interior was a fortress of cold logic, sleek panels, glowing control arrays, and a palpable silence that belied the chaos unfolding outside. Commander Darius Kane paced the narrow corridor, his mind whirling with questions. How could a single act of discovery spiral into such unforeseen peril? In the dim glow of the ship's command deck, Dr. Orion Weiss pored over the sensor data. Commander, the thermal scans show anomalous heat signatures emerging from the sarcophagus location. It's as if the creature is coming alive, he reported, fingers dancing over holographic controls. His voice wavered between scientific wonder and stark dread. Kane's jaw tightened. Lee, lock down all external airlocks and secure the vessel. We're not leaving until we understand what we're dealing with. The order cut through the murmurs of his crew, igniting a flurry of activity as technicians initiated protocols and defense measures. For the first time since setting foot on this hostile world, the expedition transformed from curious explorers into a beleaguered garrison. Outside, the environment was undergoing a sinister metamorphosis. The crystalline surface of the planet rippled like disturbed water, and beneath the thin veneer of frost, the alien structure pulsed with a growing, ominous energy. What had been a silent sentinel of the past now thrummed with life, each pulse sending tremors through the frozen ground. A series of low, resonant vibrations rattled the landing module, as if the planet itself were trying to warn its visitors of the impending storm. As the crew worked feverishly to bolster the ship's defenses, the first true sign of danger materialized. A ragged fissure split the frozen terrain near the landing module, and from it emerged a pale, sinewy figure. The alien being, its elongated limbs glistening with a sheen of thawing ice, stepped cautiously forward, its eyes reflecting the distant, eerie glow of the reawakened structure. The creature's movement was unnervingly deliberate, as though it had calculated every step with the precision of an ancient hunter. "Status," Kane barked, striding to the observation window, where the unfolding scene played out in surreal slow motion. The creature halted, head tilted as if assessing the humans with an inscrutable intelligence. In that charged moment, time seemed to suspend itself, the only sound the rhythmic beat of hearts racing in unison with the alien's measured footsteps. A sharp alarm sliced through the charged silence. "Multiple intruder signatures detected on the lower deck," came the urgent report from Lieutenant Marisol Vega, her voice edged with the controlled panic of a seasoned officer. Her words confirmed what Kane feared. This was only the vanguard of a larger force awakening from a long slumber. Within moments, more figures emerged from crevices and cracks along the ice, a scattered vanguard of alien sentinels, their forms partially concealed by swirling mists and shards of ice. Each being carried the same ancient aura as the first, their movements silent yet purposeful. They advanced steadily toward the landing module, driven by instincts encoded in millennia of isolation beneath the frozen surface. "Prepare the defensive arrays," Kane commanded, his tone crisp and resolute as he rallied his crew. Engineers scrambled to arm energy barriers while security personnel manned turret stations along narrow corridors. Every crew member now understood the stakes. Not only was their lives at risk, but so was the precious cargo, coordinates to Earth, ensconced in the ship's databanks. Humanity's last beacon of hope was encoded within those cold, metallic circuits. In a quiet corner of the command deck, Dr. Weiss exchanged a grave look with a fellow scientist. "We've woken something that wasn't meant to be disturbed," he murmured, his voice thick with the realization of ancient power reasserting itself. His words hung in the air like an unspoken prayer for survival, for the indomitable spirit of humankind. As the alien forces closed in, the ship's hull trembled with each resonant thud of the creature's approach. The first volley of defense lasers streaked across the corridor, cutting through the dim light in brilliant arcs. The ensuing battle was not one of chaotic carnage, but of calculated precision. a desperate HFY testament to human resilience against an enemy born from the frozen depths of a forgotten epoch. Every passing second deepened the mystery of this alien menace and underscored the peril of awakening dormant powers. The cold fury of the planet and the relentless advance of the creatures promised that the battle for survival had only just begun, and the stakes were nothing less than the future of Earth itself. The corridors of the vessel throbbed with tension as alarms shrieked and red lights bathed every surface in urgent warning. The humans, long known for their resourcefulness, quickly rallied to counter the mounting threat. As the alien sentinels drew nearer, the once sterile halls of the ship morphed into a battleground. Commander Darius Kane's voice, measured yet resolute, cut through the chaos. "Stand firm. We defend not only our vessel but the future of Earth." Lieutenant Marisol Vega coordinated a rapid defense, directing her team to strategically fortified choke points along the lower decks. Engineers recalibrated energy barriers and repurposed emergency protocols, their hands moving swiftly over holographic displays that pulsed with an icy blue glow. Outside, the spectral figures emerged from swirling mists, a ghostly phalanx advancing with deliberate, measured precision. Their elongated limbs, etched in frost, moved like silent shadows across the corridor, and each step resonated with the echo of an ancient, inexorable purpose. Amid the clamor, Dr. Orion Weiss convened a small group of scientists in the makeshift command lab near the central reactor. The team huddled around a series of flickering monitors, displaying erratic alien energy patterns. "There's a distinct resonance in their power signatures," he observed, voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "If we can isolate that frequency, we might be able to override their communication and disrupt their coordination." His words were a mixture of hope and urgency, a calculated risk that might just tilt the scales in humanity's favor. Down in the engineering bay, Security Officer Malik Reyes led a counter-assault team along a critical access corridor. The metallic clatter of his boots echoed as he advanced, scanning the shadows for movement. An alien figure, nearly camouflaged by the interplay of light and dark, lunged forward with surprising speed. In a blur of motion, Malik sidestepped a slashing limb and returned fire with a precision shot from his plasma sidearm. "Keep it tight, everyone," he barked over the comms, his voice resolute as he engaged the creature in a hand-to-hand skirmish. Every near-miss and parried strike was a testament to human grit, a species that thrived under pressure. As the corridors became a maelstrom of laser fire and close-quarters combat, Commander Kane, flanked by an elite security detail, made a daring dash toward the ship's primary control station. The station, nestled deep within the lower bow, was the nerve center for the vessel's automated defenses. The structure itself hummed with latent energy, its control panels blinking erratically under the stress of the unfolding crisis. "We need to reconfigure the turret arrays now." Kane's command was a rallying cry that cut through the ambient din, pushing his team to defy the odds. In a critical moment, as alien claws scraped against reinforced plating and energy beams seared the air, the engineering team succeeded in channeling additional power from the reactor to a newly established defensive grid. The corridor ahead erupted in a shimmering cascade of blue and silver, a barrier that momentarily repelled the advancing horde. For a brief heartbeat, the corridor was transformed into a field of radiant energy, a beacon of human innovation against an enemy forged in the chill of forgotten millennia. Within the central reactor's humming core, Dr. Weiss and his team fine-tuned their improvised device, a sensor array coupled with a signal modulator designed to intercept and mirror the alien frequencies. "I'm getting a stable read," whispered a junior technician, eyes wide as she monitored the fluctuating waveforms. Weiss nodded gravely, aware that the success of their experiment might mark a turning point. This could be our key to shutting them down, or at least buying us time. Back on the front line, the alien forces pressed relentlessly, their formation spreading like a tide over the vessel's corridors. Malik Reyes, still in the midst of combat, found himself face to face with a particularly imposing creature, the alien's luminescent eyes fixed on his own in a silent, almost human-like challenge. In a fleeting exchange of guttural sounds and determined glances, Malik summoned the inner strength that had carried humanity through eons of adversity. With a burst of coordinated strikes and well-timed evasions, he managed to incapacitate his foe, an act that ignited a spark of renewed hope among his comrades. Every heartbeat, every whispered command resonated with the unyielding spirit of those aboard. The ship itself seemed to pulse with defiant life, its corridors alive with the synchronized hum of human ingenuity meeting alien might head-on. In that moment, the lines between predator and prey blurred as the defenders harnessed their ingenuity, turning the very tools of survival into weapons of liberation. The battle had evolved from a mere struggle for survival into a dynamic contest of wills, a clash where ancient alien powers confronted the relentless, innovative spirit of humanity. The energy barrier shimmered and pulsed in time with the alien advance, each rhythmic beat marking a stand against oblivion. With every coordinated maneuver, every sacrificial act of bravery, the crew etched a promise into the cold metal of their vessel. Humanity would not yield to forces beyond comprehension. In the frozen corridors of this drifting stronghold, amid the cacophony of laser fire and alien roars, the defiant heartbeat of Earth shone brightly, a beacon of hope, determination, and the unbreakable resolve to protect the fragile spark of life against an encroaching, unrelenting tide. In the heart of the vessel, where corridors once echoed with routine maintenance and calm chatter, chaos now reigned. The corridors pulsed with an eerie light, as if the very walls had awakened to the alien menace. Sparks flew from damaged conduits and panels, their erratic glow casting grotesque shadows that danced in time with the alien advance. Commander Darius Kane's voice crackled over the intercom, laced with urgency and steely resolve. All teams, brace for breach. We hold this line at all costs. Earth's coordinates are our lifeline. Down a narrow passage lined with shattered glass and twisted metal, Lieutenant Marisol Vega led a small squad of elite security personnel. Their boots pounded on the metal floor as they approached a critical junction, a conduit that linked the outer decks with the inner sanctum where the command center resided. The door to the junction was already ajar, splintered by the force of the alien incursion. Vega's hand hovered near her sidearm as she signaled her team to halt. Eyes sharp, intel suggests coordinated movement. They're not mindless brutes, they're calculating. Her whispered words were met with tense nods and steady grips on weapons. Meanwhile, deep within the engineering hub, Dr. Orion Weiss and his dedicated group of scientists hurriedly prepare the frequency modulator. The device, cobbled together from salvaged parts and emergency circuitry, was humanity's gambit against the alien hive mind that now pulsed through the ship's veins. Weiss adjusted a series of delicate dials on the handheld console, sweat beading on his brow as he watched the erratic waveforms dance on the holographic display. This frequency should create a localized feedback loop, disrupt their coordination just enough to give us breathing room, he explained to his assistant Mira. Her eyes, reflecting both fear and determination, met his. It's now or never, Doctor. Outside the engineering hub, the corridor convulsed with the sound of combat, a symphony of energy blasts, metallic clashes, and the guttural, inhuman calls of the alien assailants. Malik Reyes's voice echoed from a nearby channel as he engaged an enemy in brutal close-quarters combat. I need backup at Sector 7. They're breaking through our secondary defense. His call was punctuated by the sharp crack of plasma discharges. Back at the central junction, Commander Kane assessed the situation with a cold, calculating eye. He ordered, Vega, secure the northern passage and fortify the bulkhead. Reyes, hold your position and cover the rear exit. We can't let these creatures access the command center. Every second counts. The orders were relayed with the crisp authority that had carried humanity through countless trials. Yet beneath the veneer of command lay the grim awareness that their adversary was unlike anything they had encountered, a force that had lain dormant, only to be reawakened by human curiosity and desperation. In a narrow alcove adjacent to the junction, a reconnaissance team led by Ensign Rivera crept forward, scanning for any signs of alien disruption in the internal network. Their handheld devices lit up with cryptic energy readings, pulses that seemed to echo the rhythm of a distant heartbeat. Rivera's voice trembled slightly as he reported, "Sir, there's a recurring signal emanating from the lower corridors. It's almost musical, like it's calling to them." His words were met with a heavy silence, as if the revelation itself weighed on every soul aboard. At that critical juncture, Dr. Weiss's modulator was activated. A low, resonant hum filled the engineering bay, its frequency weaving through the ship's compromised communication lines. Almost immediately, scattered groups of alien figures staggered, their coordinated movements disrupted by the sudden cacophony of alien interference. For a moment, hope sparked amid the despair, human ingenuity, once again, challenging the tide of an overwhelming foe. Yet the respite was brief. The frequency modulator, though effective in disorienting the enemy, also seemed to trigger a peculiar reaction within the alien network. In the flickering glow of the device, the aliens' once chaotic advance coalesced into a more deliberate, almost ritualistic pattern. The walls of the corridor vibrated with a low, thrumming cadence, as if the ship itself were becoming an instrument in a grand cosmic symphony of war. "Doctor, adjust the modulation parameters. There's a feedback loop intensifying the enemy's response," shouted a technician over the din, his voice edged with urgency. Weiss's fingers flew over the controls as he recalibrated the device, racing against the mounting pressure of the advancing horde. "I'm on it. Hold your ground," he barked, the weight of his responsibility mingling with the mounting dread that every decision now could tip the balance between survival and annihilation. As the alien forces pressed on, their silhouettes merging with the encroaching darkness, Commander Kane surveyed the battlefield with a mixture of tactical insight and unyielding determination. Every corridor, every shattered beam, and every desperate command was a testament to humanity's enduring spirit, a defiant stand against an enemy that had awakened from an ancient frozen slumber. In that critical moment, with Earth's destiny hanging precariously in the balance, the crew fought not merely for survival, but for the very future of humankind. The convergence of shadows in the vessel's labyrinthine corridors signaled that the battle was far from over. With the modulator's uncertain pulse resonating in the background, the human defenders steeled themselves for the next onslaught, a relentless tide of alien fury that would test the limits of their ingenuity, courage, and the indomitable will to protect their fragile hope for a future beyond the frozen nightmare. Deep within the vessel, shielded by layers of reinforced alloy and cascading energy barriers, lay the ship's central data core, the repository of Earth's last coordinates and the heartbeat of humanity's hope. As the relentless alien assault raged in the outer corridors, every crew member knew that the sanctum was the last bastion between their home and annihilation. Commander Darius Kane's resolute voice echoed through the narrow hallways. "This is the Iron Heart. We hold it at all costs. Our future, Earth's future, depends on it." In the dim, pulsating glow of the control chamber adjacent to the core, Dr. Orion Weiss and his trusted technician, Mira, fought to outpace the chaos invading their systems. Holographic displays flickered as alien interference surged through the networks. Mira's fingers trembled over the interface while she recalibrated security protocols. "Doctor, the interference is spiking again. We need to isolate the disruption to lock down the core's defenses," she urged, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Weiss's eyes, filled with determination and a hint of desperation, met hers. "Focus on the override codes. Every second we waste gives them a chance to breach further." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Marisol Vega and her elite squad had taken up strategic positions along the reinforced corridor leading to the sanctum. The cold clatter of armored boots on metal underscored the gravity of their mission. Outside, the sound of distant, unearthly war cries and the hum of alien energy reverberated off the vessel's walls. "Team, stay on alert. This isn't a random incursion. They're methodical, adapting with every moment," Vega whispered into her comm, her eyes scanning the corridor for any sign of movement. Without warning, the metallic door guarding the sanctum shuddered violently, With a deafening crash, it splintered open, and a flood of alien silhouettes surged into the passage. These creatures, gaunt and lithe, moved with a predatory grace, their eyes glinting with a cold, calculated intelligence. "Incoming!" Vega's command cut through the din as she unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, sending searing bolts streaking through the darkness. The corridor lit up with bursts of blue and amber, each shot a desperate measure against the overwhelming tide. In the ensuing melee, Commander Kane charged forward, his armored form a bastion of determination amid the chaos. As he navigated the tumultuous corridor, he encountered a towering alien sentinel, its frost-etched form blocking the path. The creature's unblinking eyes and deliberate posture radiated a silent challenge. "Not on my watch," Kane growled. In a fierce clash of wills and weaponry, his plasma rifle discharged a precise volley. The alien staggered, its limbs faltering, as Kane forced his way past, rejoining his embattled team. Back at the core chamber, the atmosphere was electric with urgency. Dr. Weiss's team watched the data core, a crystalline structure humming with latent energy, begin to pulse in a mesmerizing rhythm. "The core is responding to our modulator's frequency. It's almost as if it's activating its own defense mechanism," noted a young technician, eyes wide as the core's light intensified. Weiss leaned forward, his tone urgent. "This pulse is our chance. Mira, reroute auxiliary power to the shield matrix. We need to synchronize the core's energy with our defenses." As Mira's nimble fingers danced over the console, the ship trembled with the force of the alien onslaught. In the corridor outside the sanctum, Vega's team formed a defensive ring, every member poised to sacrifice themselves if necessary. "Hold the line! We can't let them get any closer!" Vega's voice was a clarion call, echoing with the unyielding spirit of a people who had always triumphed in the face of impossible odds. The tension escalated as the core's brilliant light began to radiate outward, casting an ethereal glow over the sanctum. This radiant barrier, fueled by the synchronized power from Weiss's modulator and Mira's recalibrations, repelled the encroaching aliens for a heartbeat. It was a moment of awe, a silent promise that human ingenuity could turn the tide even in the darkest hours. But the respite was fleeting. Drawn to the core's pulsing energy like moths to a flame, the alien hordes surged forward with renewed determination. The synchronized thrum of their advance reverberated through the sanctum's walls as they pressed in from every angle. Commander Kane, standing amid the chaos, knew that the coming moments would define their fate. "This is it," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else, "our final stand." In that critical juncture, as the core's light battled the shadows of the invaders, every soul aboard the vessel summoned the indomitable will that had carried humanity through millennia of strife. With a unified, resolute cry, the defenders braced for the final onslaught, a desperate, brilliant countermeasure that melded human ingenuity with raw courage. It was a gambit born of necessity, to channel the core's ancient power in a burst of energy that might just repel the enemy permanently. The sanctum transformed into a crucible of light and shadow. The alien invaders, momentarily disoriented by the unexpected brilliance, faltered under the barrage of synchronized human defenses. Amid the chaotic interplay of plasma fire and radiant energy, the ship itself seemed to awaken, a living testament to humanity's relentless drive to survive and prevail. In that charged atmosphere, with the fate of Earth and the vessel hanging in the balance, the iron heart pulsed like the beat of a warrior's drum. Every heartbeat, every flicker of light, was a declaration. Humanity would never surrender its future. The battle for the core was not merely a fight for survival. It was a defiant stand against the ancient frozen terrors that threatened to extinguish the flame of human hope forever. The battered corridors of the vessel throbbed with an uneasy silence, punctuated by the sporadic crackle of damaged systems and distant echoes of combat. The relentless alien assault had left scars on every metal beam and fiber-optic conduit. In the aftermath of the breach at the Iron Heart, Commander Darius Kane convened an urgent strategy session in the interim command chamber, a cramped room lit by the ghostly glow of flickering monitors. Maps of the ship and schematics of the ancient alien architecture were strewn across the hollow table, a visual testament to the chaos of the last hours. Dr. Orion Weiss, eyes bloodshot yet alight with determination, leaned forward as he manipulated a series of holographic overlays. Our data indicates the aliens operate on a synchronized neural network, a nexus of signals that unites their scattered forces, he explained, his voice carrying both urgency and wonder. The frequency modulator we deployed earlier isn't merely a disruptive tool. It's interacting with their hive mind. I believe that if we can target this central node, we might fracture their collective control. Lieutenant Marisol Vega crossed her arms, her gaze hard and steady. So you're saying their intelligence isn't random chaos, but a single command source? That means we have a shot at turning the tide. The possibility resonated with the assembled crew. Humans, whose indomitable spirit had already defied impossible odds, now found hope in the idea of exploiting an inherent weakness. Kane's tone was measured but resolute as he issued orders. We're initiating Operation Fracture. Dr. Weiss, you and your team will recalibrate the modulator to focus on the suspected neural nexus. Vega, assemble a tactical unit to secure the access route to the core corridors where the nexus is likely located. This isn't just defense, it's a counterstrike. Within minutes, the engineering bay transformed into a frenetic lab of calculated chaos. Weiss and his technicians reconfigured the modulator, isolating a narrow band of frequencies that pulsed in time with the ship's failing power grid. The device now emitted a steady, low-frequency hum, a heartbeat in sync with the core's crystalline pulses. I'm aligning the modulator output with the core's resonance, Weiss muttered as his fingers danced over the interface. If my calculations are correct, this signal will propagate through the alien network and cause disarray at its source. As the recalibrated frequency spread along the ship's interconnected systems, a palpable shift occurred in the corridors. The alien invaders, which moments before had surged in a terrifyingly coordinated assault, began to falter. Their movements lost the hypnotic precision that had defined their advance. In one section of the vessel, a squad of aliens halted mid-stride, their luminescent eyes dimming as if caught in a trance. The eerie, synchronized cadence of their steps stuttered into irregular, uncertain movements. Meanwhile, a covert team led by Lieutenant Vega stealthily navigated through a maintenance duct that ran adjacent to the core corridors. Their footsteps were muffled, their breathing controlled. Every member was acutely aware that they were venturing into the enemy's potential command center. "Keep your eyes peeled," Vega whispered into the comm, her voice barely audible over the low hum of the ship's reactors. This could be the nerve center of their entire operation. At the heart of the ship, the data core, the iron heart, pulsated with a haunting light. The crystalline structure seemed to vibrate in response to Weiss's modified modulator, its radiance growing brighter with each passing second. Through a narrow viewport, Kane and a few key officers observed the phenomenon with a mixture of trepidation and awe. "It's as if the core is awakening," Kane remarked, his tone soft but filled with resolve. "This may be our last stand, but it could also be the turning point." Inside the central corridor, the modulator's disruptive frequency began to weave a pattern, a visible, undulating ripple that spread along the walls and floors, synchronizing with the flickering lights of the ship. The aliens, now visibly disoriented, exchanged guttural calls that suggested confusion rather than command. One alien, larger than the rest, paused at a junction where multiple corridors converged. For a moment, its head tilted as if trying to decode the onslaught of unfamiliar signals. Then, in an almost human gesture of uncertainty, it let out a resonant, low-frequency sound that reverberated down the hall. Back in the control room, Weiss's technicians monitored the readings. "The neural node is destabilizing," one technician reported, voice quivering with excitement. "The coordinated frequency across multiple channels is collapsing. They're losing their connection." A surge of hope spread through the room, tempered by the realization that the enemy was still far from defeated. Lieutenant Vega's unit reached a critical junction near the core corridors, where the structural designs hinted at a central nexus, an architectural anomaly that radiated an eerie blue light. Vega signaled for her team to take positions around the anomaly. "On my mark, we deploy the pulse emitters," she ordered, her voice calm yet commanding. These compact devices, rigged with Weiss's recalibrated frequency signature, were their final gambit to shatter the alien hive mind once and for all. As the pulse emitters activated, a deep, resonant wave surged outward, intermingling with the modulator's hum. The effect was almost instantaneous. The alien formations, once perfectly aligned, began to splinter. Their movements became erratic. Some recoiled into the shadows, while others collapsed, overwhelmed by the disruptive cascade. In the echo of that singular moment, the vast network of alien consciousness fractured, leaving the once unified force scattered and vulnerable. Commander Kane's voice rang out over the comm, firm and resolute. "Hold your positions. This is our chance to reclaim the ship and our future." The crew, emboldened by the success of the countermeasure, rallied with renewed vigor. In that heartbeat of chaos, the nexus of revelation had unveiled a critical truth. Humanity's relentless ingenuity and determination could break even the most ancient and formidable of adversaries. As the ripple of disruption faded, silence settled like a fragile truce over the corridors. The once oppressive march of alien invaders had faltered, leaving behind a corridor filled with lingering echoes and a spark of hope. Yet, amidst the quiet, every crew member knew that the battle was far from over. The nexus had been fractured, but the threat still loomed, a challenge that would test the very limits of human resilience. In the dim glow of the Iron Heart, with its crystalline pulses now more erratic yet full of promise, the human defenders prepared for the next phase of their desperate struggle. The message was clear. Even in the face of overwhelming darkness, humanity's spark of ingenuity could illuminate the path to survival, forging a future where hope would rise from the frozen depths of danger. A fragile calm settled over the battered corridors of the vessel, a deceptive silence after the chaos of Operation Fracture. The recalibrated modulator's hum still resonated through the walls, its undulating frequency having shattered the alien hive mind moments ago. Yet in that eerie interlude, every crew member felt the weight of impending judgment. The lights flickered in the distance, shadows dancing across scarred metal, as if the very ship was drawing a ragged breath before the next storm. Commander Darius Kane stood at the central command console, his gaze fixed on the slowly stabilizing readouts. "This lull is our only window," he intoned, his voice steady despite the exhaustion evident in every line of his face. "We've disrupted their coordination, but I'm not convinced they're beaten. They're regrouping." His words hung heavy in the recycled air, a sober reminder that victory was far from assured. In the quiet moments that followed, the echoes of earlier clashes, plasma discharges, shattering impacts, and desperate shouts seemed to recede, replaced by the ominous promise of renewed aggression. Deep in the lower decks, Lieutenant Marisol Vega led her unit along a corridor where the walls still bore the scorch marks of recent battle. The silence here was punctuated by distant clatters and the soft hiss of cooling systems struggling to contain the damage. "Keep sharp," she whispered into her comm link, every step measured as her team advanced cautiously. Her eyes, reflecting both determination and concern, caught a flicker of movement in the peripheral darkness. It was subtle, a shifting mass where the remnants of the alien force were apparently consolidating. Vega's hand instinctively moved to her sidearm as she signaled her squad to take defensive positions behind a reinforced bulkhead. Elsewhere, in the engineering bay that served as the vessel's nerve center, Dr. Orion Weiss re-examined the data streaming from the modulator. The readouts revealed a disconcerting trend. While the frequency pulse had initially fractured the alien network, it now showed signs of interference. "There's an echo in the signal, a countermodulation," Weiss murmured, his voice low and urgent. "It appears the aliens are adapting. They're trying to reestablish their network through some kind of backup frequency." His assistant, Mira, exchanged a glance with him, the unspoken understanding of the stakes uniting them. They frantically adjusted the parameters, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as they sought to preempt the enemy's countermeasure. A sudden, bone-chilling groan reverberated through the corridors, a sound that seemed to originate from the very bowels of the ship. The alien forces, though dispersed, were massing for a renewed assault. Commander Kane's voice cracked over the comm. "All hands, prepare for immediate combat. We've got one shot to hold this line." The order was met with swift responses. Security teams bolstered their positions, and technicians hurried to reinforce energy barriers. In one particularly tense exchange near the data core, a security officer radioed, "We're holding position, but they're pushing from the north corridor." The terse report was a stark reminder that the enemy's resolve was as relentless as the planet's freezing grip. Amid the mounting pressure, a bold plan began to crystallize. Kane convened a rapid briefing in a secure alcove near the core chamber. "Our only chance is to not just hold, but to strike back decisively," he declared. "We'll use the modulator's frequency to create a cascading pulse, a shock wave that might permanently disable their ability to coordinate." The room buzzed with a mix of hope and apprehension as engineers and tactical officers exchanged determined looks. Vega, her voice firm and resolute, added, "We'll need to clear a path to the alien nexus zone that's been intermittently feeding their network. It's our target if we're going to end this threat." With the plan set into motion, teams mobilized with renewed vigor. In the corridors, the aliens, already visibly disoriented from the earlier pulse, began to rally, their movements now frantic and desperate. A concentrated squad of human fighters advanced down a long, dimly lit passage, their weapons primed and their resolve unshaken. Every step was a defiant challenge against the encroaching darkness. Every volley of plasma a testament to humanity's refusal to cower before an ancient enemy. The air was thick with the palpable tension of a final stand, as if the fate of Earth itself rested on these moments. In a climactic burst of action, the recalibrated modulator's output was amplified, its shockwave reverberating through the corridors like a clarion call. Alien formations convulsed under the impact, a maelstrom of shattering cohesion and disarray. The sudden, violent disruption forced several of the regrouping entities to falter, their advance grinding to a halt under the relentless barrage of human countermeasures. As the shockwave's ripple subsided, a collective breath was drawn by the defenders. Yet, in that fleeting victory, every soul aboard knew that the struggle was far from over. The frozen reckoning had been set in motion, and the final confrontation was now inevitable. Deep within the vessel's battered corridors, where the hum of recovery mingled with the fading echoes of battle, the final confrontation had come to a head. The recalibrated modulator, now fused with the core's latent energy, pulsed in harmony with a heartbeat that spoke of human resolve. Commander Darius Kane, his eyes hardened by loss, yet burning with unwavering determination, surveyed the scene through the fractured viewport of the central control chamber. Every scar on the ship's metal skin was a testament to the struggle, a struggle for the coordinates to Earth, for the legacy of humanity. For a moment, a deceptive calm held sway. The energy shields, still flickering from the last pulse, cast long, quivering shadows over the debris-strewn corridors. Across these halls, the alien foes, once a fearsome, synchronized tide of predatory might, had been thrown into disarray by the shockwave unleashed earlier. Their coordinated advance had splintered. Scattered figures limped back toward the dark recesses of the vessel, their neural link irrevocably fractured. Yet a palpable tension remained, as if the enemy was regrouping for one final desperate charge. In the heart of the chaos, Dr. Orion Weiss and his team worked feverishly within the engineering nexus. The modulator's display read like a battleground, a cascade of erratic waveforms now stabilizing into a focused frequency. "We have one more shot at this," Weiss declared into the static-laced comm, his voice both an order and a prayer. "I'm synchronizing the core's output with the modulator's final pulse. When I give the signal, every sector, every defense unit must be ready." At that precise moment, Lieutenant Marisol Vega's tactical squad secured the narrow access corridor leading to the Iron Heart, the vessel's central data core, where Earth's coordinates were safeguarded. The corridor's walls, etched with the scars of plasma blasts and the echo of alien war cries, bore silent witness to the final test of human ingenuity. Vega's eyes, steeled by countless battles, swept across the horizon of flickering lights and shattered metal. "Positions, everyone. Steady," she whispered into her comm, the tone laced with both resolve and somber finality. Outside the sanctum of the core, the enemy advanced. Alien forms emerged from the gloom like phantoms, their elongated limbs and luminous eyes betraying a desperate urgency. The creatures' movements, once as precise as the gears of an ancient clock, now faltered in the wake of the prior disruption. Yet their determination to reclaim the Iron Heart was unmistakable. Their low, resonant calls merged into a haunting dirge that resonated through the corridor, a final lament of a dying order. Commander Kane led the vanguard of human defenders into the fray. His plasma rifle discharged bursts of brilliant light into the advancing shadows, each shot a defiant punctuation against the encroaching doom. "For Earth," he roared, the command reverberating through the metal hallways. His voice was not just an order. It was the embodiment of a species that had weathered millennia of adversity. In the central chamber, as the crew braced for the enemy's final push, Dr. Weiss's fingers danced over the holographic controls. "Now," he shouted, and the modulator released its ultimate cataclysmic pulse. A massive shockwave of energy burst forth, rippling outward in concentric waves. The core's crystalline light flared like a supernova, casting an otherworldly radiance that swallowed the darkness whole. The pulse was both beautiful and terrible, a symphony of technology and willpower. Alien ranks convulsed as the shockwave tore through their collective neural network, their coordinated assault dissolving into chaotic fragments. In an instant, the corridor was filled with a blinding radiance and a deafening roar. The energy wave smashed against the invaders like a tidal force, sending them sprawling in all directions. Some were disintegrated in a cascade of luminous particles. Others collapsed into inert husks, their once menacing forms reduced to nothing more than echoes in the aftermath. Silence fell. For a heartbeat, the vessel was suspended in a fragile peace. Commander Kane, his armor scorched and his breath ragged, scanned the devastation with a mix of relief and grief. "Hold your positions," he ordered quietly, his voice imbued with both command and tenderness for those who had fought beside him. "We stand victorious, but remain vigilant." Lieutenant Vega's team regrouped, their eyes meeting in unspoken acknowledgement of the cost. Every step they took through the debris was a solemn march toward a future they had forged in the crucible of desperation. Meanwhile, Dr. Weiss and Mira monitored the data streams as the modulator's energy tapered off. The once fragmented alien network lay in ruins, its spectral signals now nothing more than a distant, dying whisper. In the central data chamber, the Iron Heart pulsed steadily, its crystalline light a beacon of hope. Encoded within its intricate lattice were the coordinates to Earth, a secret that had nearly been lost to the chaos of cosmic war. Commander Kane approached the core, his hand outstretched in silent reverence. "Earth's future is safe," he murmured, the words resonating like a vow. "We have defended not just a ship, but the promise of our civilization." As the last vestiges of the enemy faded into the shadows, the vessel's corridors slowly came to life with the steady rhythm of restored systems and determined souls. In the aftermath of the final pulse, humanity had not only survived, it had triumphed. The ship, bearing the sacred data core, became a floating sanctuary of defiance and hope in the cold void of space. In that profound moment, amid the scars and silence of battle, the human spirit shone brighter than ever. The final dawn had arrived, not as an end, but as a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of a species that would forever defy the darkness.